Hello, I'm Paddy, and I'm back for my second science fiction and fantasy book review. It's just science fiction and fantasy this time, no cat books unlike last time, but cat books may reappear in the future, who knows. Right, let's get straight into the books. These are not quite the last 4 books I've read, because I've been reading loads of books recently, so I'm a bit behind myself with reviewing them. I've been to a place called the Book Barn, which is close to Bristol in the UK. If you're ever near Bristol in the UK, go and visit the International Book Barn, because you can get tons of books, science fiction and all other kinds of books, and they're nearly all £1 each, which is quite a bargain for books. In fact, I went to a book sale there recently, and I think the books were £1 per... no, was it £2? Could have been £2 per pound of books, but that's quite a lot of books for your money. Anyway, the first book I'm going to review is called Cardinal Crimson, and if you can see from the cover, we've got a guy, he's our protagonist, with a huge sword with spiky bits on it, very impractical as a sword. Enormous weapon holster, he's got his mutant sidekick here with massive gun. You can pretty much tell what kind of book this is going to be from the cover, and it is that kind of book. The character not on the cover is the sexy Amazonian fighting woman who is also involved. There's lots of kind of sexist comments and innuendo, but it's a fairly chaste book. There's not sex scenes and romance and anything like that. It's just action and it's quite cartoonish, I'd say. It's not graphic and gritty when people do die, but they don't die in horrible ways, not like people do in real life. It's a post-apocalyptic kind of world. Our hero's a member of a gang. He's a kind of honourable guy, though, and they're kind of fighting for the good against sort of evil people, including the evil Cardinal Crimson himself, who is a bad guy. If you like books like Judge Dredd, graphic novels, this will tickle your fancy. It's good fun for kind of cartoon violence. Not really any kind of great new ideas in it, not really any science ideas particularly in it. It's just sort of, it's a bit like a fantasy book really, but with laser guns and set in a sort of more of a futuristic world rather than set in the past, so obviously no magic, but a lot of luck, very bad luck followed by very good luck. You can tell our heroes are going to be okay really in the end. So that's Cardinal Crimson. Yeah, I'll probably keep that and read it again. Next, James Blish. He has written, I think, quite a lot of the Star Trek books, and he also wrote an interesting series about whole cities like Chicago and such like, and New York, which uproot themselves and attach space drives and go into space, which is quite interesting. And yeah, those books have got some quite interesting concepts in. This one, Mission to the Heart Stars, I'm not going to keep it, I don't think. It felt a bit too awkward and it's a little bit kind of patronising almost. The idea is that humans have been contacted by aliens, and there's already a kind of hierarchy in the galaxy or the universe, and a particular alien race is the kind of boss race who everybody kind of looks to for leadership. And there's also some sort of uber aliens who are kind of mysteriously on the outskirts, who have decided humans are actually a better bet to be the sort of the leader aliens than the current ones. The humans want to send a delegation to the planet of the kind of leader aliens to say we want more power and want to be more important in the universe. It has very much a feel to maybe American independence, or European Union versus America or other political blocs. I do find a lot of science fiction books seem to relate to the pioneering spirit, the Wild West, independence, left-wing ideas versus right-wing ideas. And a lot of the science fiction books do seem to promote right-wing, individualistic kind of ideas over sort of teamwork and people working together. There's a lot of individual heroes doing whatever they want and being right because the book's decided they're right. Interesting that. But I found this book a bit hard to stomach in the sense that the person who goes out to be this delegation is a elderly-ish scientist who goes out with 2 apprentices, sort of just out of their teens, and that's it. It's no ambassadors or people skilled in alien languages or in negotiations. And a lot of the book is our apprentices not understanding things and the elderly scientist explaining it, for the benefit of the reader, so we know the story. And that device doesn't really work too well for me. And in the end, the reason that humans are considered to be superior leaders, I'm not going to give this away as a spoiler, but I consider that to be quite right-wing and distasteful, really, even if you could argue logically for it. So I didn't really like it that much. There's a bit of excitement. It was pleasant reading. I didn't hate reading it, and I was interested in knowing what happened in the end. I'm just going to say, not my favourite book. Let's do this one next. Ben Jeapes' The Xenocide Mission. I really enjoyed this, and I am going to keep this. It's got a bit of a kind of first contact feel to it, which a lot of books have got. But this is more second contact, because at the beginning of the book, the humans have already met an alien race, which is on a similar kind of technological and developmental level to humans, and they've got a uneasy-ish alliance. They're not fighting each other, and they are working together a bit, but they've got a few gripes. And there's a lot of interesting ideas, because these aliens used to be not exactly a slave race, but a kind of subservient race to another race of aliens who have departed in some respect, and they've chosen humans to be the replacement for their kind of leader aliens, but they don't feel entirely happy about it, and the humans don't entirely feel happy about being sort of leader alien to a race of aliens they just met. Ooh, bit of cocoa, help the voice. These 2 races of aliens have been watching yet another race of aliens who are unaware of themselves being watched until they become aware, and then they just attack and kill all the people watching them, which is the Xenocide of the title. And the book is about finding out why they did that and sort of what to do about it. And the 2 protagonists are a human and an alien of the kind of partner race with the humans. So you get a lot of opinions of non-human beings. You get quite a lot from the mindset of a number of different aliens, and how they see humans, how they see each other, and that's really quite interesting. That's quite engaging and thought-provoking. And yeah, there are twists. There are things I wasn't expecting, and a satisfying ending, quite a bit of action, some great ideas. I didn't really feel it was highly derivative. I mean, obviously all modern-ish science fiction is going to have ideas from elsewhere, but it was a good combination and a good length. It's not a thin book. It's quite a thick book. How many pages have we got? Ooh, lots of pages. 388 pages. But it kept me occupied, and I enjoyed it. Some books, you just feel like they're going on too long, and great chunks of it are unnecessary, but most of this I felt was necessary for the story. So that's one for my keep list. I'll keep that and read it again. And lastly, The Gods of Mars. Another huge sword. But this, you might call it a fantasy book, and mostly it is kind of fantasy, but it's a bit of a fantasy science fiction crossover. This was written a long time ago by Edgar Rice Burroughs, who you may have heard of from the Tarzan books. He was the inventor of Tarzan. This is book 2 in John Carter of Mars. I think I have read the first one as well, but as a standalone book, it works fine. I think I should say the Xenocide. This Xenocide is also part of a series, but again, it works fine as a standalone. And also, Cardinal Crimson is part of quite a long trilogy of books. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's 5 other books in this series for Cardinal Crimson. And I felt this book is fine as a standalone. I don't feel like I want to read all 6 of them. I suspect they'll be a little bit similar in a lot of ways. But great as a standalone book. I'm sure you could read any of the 6 and they'd be similar. Right, back to the Gods of Mars. Yeah, the idea of this book, and it was written, I think, well, it was written by the author who was born in around 1855, I think. So this is very early science fiction, back before there's like a kind of accepted way of writing science fiction. The idea of the Gods of Mars and the other books in this series is that a soldier in the American War of Independence, I think, goes into a cave and falls asleep. There's a little bit of kind of Native American magic involved somehow. And when he wakes up, he's not in the cave anymore. He's actually on the planet Mars in the far distant past, back when Mars had life on, unlike the modern day of the time of the writing of the book, when Mars was a dead planet, as people had seen through telescopes. And Mars being Mars, of course, is the martial planet, and it's full of fighting and war. Everybody fights everybody else. There's red men, there's green men, there's hideous white apes, there are black men, I think white men as well, these crazy plant tree men with one eye. I don't think the women do any fighting. I mean, it's a book of its time. There's not much fighting with the women. They're all very sexy, and the men are all very muscly, and most people have honour, a lot more honour than on Earth, and maybe a bit too much honour. Everyone sort of fights for their honour and etc. But on the other hand, it's very, very chaste again, and for a man to dishonour a woman is a terrible thing to do, or for somebody to cheat on their partner is also a terrible thing. And I think sex outside marriage is a terrible thing too. So from the start of this book, there is just fighting all the way through. I mean, I think our protagonist kills thousands of various individuals throughout the book, with swords and radon rifles and radium rifles and radium pistols and such like. And for the time, there are quite a lot of science fiction ideas in this. It's not all just like an excuse for fighting, like maybe Cardinal Crimson was more of an excuse for just action fighting. Even though this is full of action, there's also a bit of political intrigue and a few thought-provoking questions, a little bit of philosophy about sort of honour and what a man should be and sort of what's right, and questioning the Martian way and questioning the human way by looking at the way people live on Mars. And yeah, there are some science fiction bits, floating spaceship, well, not spaceships, floating craft, and so there's some kind of anti-gravity going on, and a little bit of magic as well, or it's also suggested magic. There's not any really in-your-face magic. It's certainly not a very intellectual book. If you want just something to read that's not going to tax your brain, then The Gods of Mars is for you. Out of the 4 I've done, for brain taxing, maybe the Xenocide mission, possibly, or possibly the Mission to the Heart Stars. Mission to the Heart Stars is kind of slow, and there's a lot of dialogue in it, so that's probably the top brain taxing book out of the 4 I've done today. And yeah, these two, The Gods of Mars and Cardinal Crimson, are probably the least brain taxing. If you've read anything that you think is really great, put it in the comments and let other people know about it. Enjoy your reading. It's a great hobby. See you soon.